Good evening, everyone, or good morning, or whatever time of day it is. Let me get my camera. Still cutting off the top of my head. It's a little better. Okay, let's make the mudra for the mandala, and we'll offer the mandala. Here is the great earth filled with the smell of incense, covered with a blanket of flowers. The great mountain, the four continents, wearing a jewel of the sun and the moon. In my mind, I make them the paradise of a Buddha and offer it all to you. By this deed, may every living being experience the pure world. Idam Guru Ratna Mandalakam Niryatayame. I go for refuge to the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha until I achieve enlightenment. By the power of the goodness that I do in giving and the rest, may I reach Buddhahood for the sake of every living being. I go for refuge to the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha until I achieve enlightenment. By the power of the goodness that I do in giving and the rest, may I reach Buddhahood for the sake of every living being. I go for refuge to the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha until I achieve enlightenment. By the power of the goodness that I do in giving and the rest, I will reach Buddhahood for the sake of every living being. Okay. So we'll do a short opening meditation. Well, before we do that, so tomorrow's class will be the complete meditation. I'm going to send you a written copy of it after class tomorrow. Well, maybe I'll send that tonight. And maybe I'll do that. What else did I want to say? Now we can talk about how to use this in your daily practice. We'll talk a little bit more about that tomorrow. Okay. Oh, I don't know what's going on here. Okay. Let's get ready to do a brief meditation. So get comfortable. Go ahead and do two rounds of 10 breaths each, trying to focus your attention on your breath and not being distracted. Okay, we'll start. I'll do the counting. Okay. Shift if you need to, then we'll start. You're in front of the red door in the triangle room, and on it is a sign that says, "Only the Dharma can help." You open the door, it swings into the next room to the left. You take a step in, close the door. You're in a corridor like a greenhouse. You can see outside on either side of you, but the glass is mirrored one way, so people can't see you. Take a few steps in, and then stop and look on both sides of the corridor. You see your loved ones and your closest friends. They're having a good time and are unaware of you. You bang on the glass to get their attention, thinking, "Hey, don't forget me. I may have just died, but how about, wasn't I a good friend? Don't you miss me?" You get angry that they seem to have forgotten you already. This is a reminder that they cannot help you when you're dying, and they will forget you. So if you're worried about being remembered, now isn't the time to worry about it. Do something about it while you're still alive. I'm not sure what that would be, but this isn't something you want to worry about as you're dying. So you continue walking down the hall, and you come to a room on both sides of the hall that's full of all your stuff, but it's disorganized, just tossed into boxes. Strangers are poking through it. It looks like maybe it's an estate sale. People are looking at everything. Maybe there's a collection of books that you particularly like. They're going through my collection of CDs and soundtracks, opening up the jewel cases, looking at them, shaking their heads, or maybe finding a treasure. You can't take any of your possessions with you, and you're upset because you can't get to them, but others don't care. The adage in America that he who dies with the most toys wins is completely wrong. If you really understand the death meditation, you will have taken care of all these kind of things. So when you die, you're not thinking about the mundane things like this. Who's going to get my collection of CDs? Who's going to care about it? If I care about who gets it, if it's the kind of thing that's going to bother me when I'm dying, take care of it now. Make sure that a loved one knows what you want to have done with it. You get to the end of the corridor, there's a room that looks like a morgue, and there's a naked dead body on the autopsy table, and to the left, on the left side of the room. You walk over, lift the blanket, and see that it's faceless. You can't really tell who it is, except you know what your body looked like and the scars you had. You realize it's your body, but it's faceless. This indicates your body doesn't come with you. When you die, it's gone as well. There's no reason not to keep a good, healthy physical body when you're alive. But as you're dying, if you're thinking your body's abandoning you after all the hard work, it's not fighting off death. That's not the way to be thinking about it. Because it doesn't matter how beautiful your body is, how good a shape it's in, it isn't coming with you. Okay, you turn, you walk back into the corridor, and across from the morgue room is a white door. That's our next meditation. So picture we didn't do the preliminaries. Well, never mind. Go ahead, open your eyes. Some days are better than others for me. Okay. So we have one more meditation, but that's going to come after a discussion. Okay. Okay, so I need to share the screen. There we go. Bring that over here. This. There we go. I'm going to share screen 2. There we go. You should see screen course class 5.
Yes.
Okay, so class 5. There are 3 resolutions we're going to talk about. The first, knowing I must die, I resolved to start my practice. So having gone through this discussion of the death meditation, you should at this point be thinking, knowing I must die, I resolved to start my practice. Knowing that only your karma goes on, we want to learn about and do the deeds that will make the karma we want. And that's what today's class is about. Since I could die at any moment, I resolved to quit my worldly concerns and start my practice right now. This does not mean you give up your job, give up your family, and go find a retreat cabin somewhere. What this means is you quit the emphasis on your worldly concerns and put the emphasis on your practice. Since nothing else can help when I die, I resolve to concentrate on my practice. This means your internal spiritual practice, your mind, actions, and compassion. Memorizing this, doing your sadhana practice, are your external practices. They help, but they won't make you change your habits from selfish to otherish unless you put them into actions of your body, speech, and mind. So we're going to be talking about exchanging self with others. But that really means a discussion about bodhicitta. So we're going to briefly discuss bodhicitta. There are 2 ways to develop Mahayana. Well, let me start over. I was looking through Geshe-la's notes on the 18 courses, and frequently he talks about bodhicitta as either being the wish for enlightenment or the wish for total enlightenment. So back in the beginning of my career as a Buddhist, I wondered, what's the difference between enlightenment and total enlightenment? And it isn't, how can you be partially enlightened? Well, it depends on the school you're in and what you define as enlightenment. The listeners and self-made Buddhists consider nirvana to be enlightenment, but that's not total enlightenment. So when we talk about enlightenment, and the enlightenment we're talking about here is Mahayana bodhicitta, Mahayana bodhicitta means reaching total enlightenment for the benefit of all beings. Now you'll see in the student notes that he'll define bodhicitta as being total enlightenment. And then in a few sentences below, he'll say there's 3 types of bodhicitta, of enlightenment. So the simplest thing to do is just simply remember we're looking at Mahayana bodhicitta, which means reaching total enlightenment for the benefit of all beings. So to do that, we have 2 basic normal methods for doing that. The first one's 7-point cause and effect. And the second was is exchanging self and others. Now in the 18 courses, we go over the 7-point cause and effect in great detail. So I'm not going to do that here. Instead, we're going to focus our attention on exchanging self and others. Now it's important, I think I may have related this story already, but maybe not. My wife had a fellow, after her folks passed, she started looking for a reason for why it had happened to us to have such totally wonderful people die so unexpectedly. And she went searching, she went and studied with different groups. One of them was a theosophy group, which she remained in contact with once she found Buddhism. But one of the very learned people in the theosophy group could not wrap her head around this idea of exchanging self and others. She thought that meant that she had to take on the cancer of somebody else, and she wasn't willing to do that. So it's important here, you're not taking on the karma of someone else. What you're doing is exchanging yourself and others. You're including them in your orbit of emotions. If they hurt, you hurt. Do you hurt the same way? Do you hurt with the cancer that's eating you up? No. But you're empathizing with them. Because if you can empathize with them, you can treat them the way they and help them become happy and free from suffering. That's our job. So exchanging self and others is not meaning you take on their personal physical pain, etc. So exchanging self and others, there's a basic level, there's a medium level, and there's a deepest level. The basic level, what would make this person the happiest right now? So this means putting yourself in other people's shoes. We must externalize the internal practices, the recitation, mantras, and sadhanas, take our practice off our cushions and out into samsara. If we're going to die tonight and want the holiest practice, we must be out and about with people working to end their suffering. Ironically, the more demanding they are, the better chance to practice, the more powerful our practice. So at this first basic level, you're trying to think, what would make this person the happiest right now? One way to do this is to watch their eyes. They'll survey a room and often stop for a moment at what is most attractive and interesting. Lobsang Jampa at Howell was always anticipating the needs of others effortlessly. You walked into the office area, he immediately was at your side seeing what you needed, and often had anticipated. Once he knew you, he knew I liked coffee, not tea, so he'd bring me a cup of coffee the minute he saw me. It was extraordinary. So that's the basic level. Now, when we say basic level, that doesn't mean it's a lesser level. It doesn't mean you don't do that after you go to the medium and the deeper level. There's a basic B. Anticipate their emotional needs. Watch people, see how they're acting, and try to figure out how to help. A good one for this, I think, is when you're in line at the grocery store. I always try and remember to look behind me to see if there's a person behind me with just a few things in their basket. Even if they're not in a hurry, I always try and let them go first because it's going to take them relatively little time to clear the grocer and get on with their day. So I'm trying to make that person the happiest right now by doing that. I'm anticipating them wanting to get on with their day. Now, how do you do that so it doesn't look like so they won't say no? What I usually do, well, then this would be a good example. So there's a woman there or a father there with two small kids, and they're pretty antsy. They're messing around. They're not very happy to be shopping with their parent. So I want them to go first. But if I say, do you want to go first? They'll try and say no. So what I do is I go, darn it, I forgot the mayonnaise. I need to go back and get it. So I leave the line. They go ahead and go in. And then I follow a few minutes later once I've gotten the mayonnaise. That way, I'm not asking them if they want to go before me and having them say no. I'm making it simple and easy for them to do so. Watch how people act and try to anticipate how to help. Level C, anticipate their spiritual needs. Now extend your concern to not only anticipating how you can help them in terms of emotional or physical. Here you're trying to help them achieve their spiritual goals by helping them with their courses, their studying. So help them study the Dharma. Someone's having trouble finding a teacher, find a teacher for them. Or better yet, offer to teach them yourself. Someone wants to be introduced to Buddhism. How do you do that? You suggest that they take the ACI courses. They're free. And now that you can get them online, it's very easy to take them. Then offer to be a contact form to help them get started. So you're taking on the responsibility of making them happy, taking care of their emotional needs, and taking care of their spiritual needs. Medium level. Try to see how they might be experiencing you. You try to like them, but this is still, you try to think like them, but this is still a separate you from me. This is important for teaching. Why do I say that? Well, as a teacher, I should not let a student leave a class distressed at what I've taught them. So I was teaching one of the review courses at the end. I think it was course 17. And we were talking about how getting angry at a bodhisattva ruins your root of virtue, can destroy years and years of collecting merit, karma, good deeds. And when I said that, a girl sitting in the back freaked out. She started to shake her head and get really worried because she had a temper. And I had said just before I said it would destroy your root of virtue, you don't know who's a bodhisattva. They don't go around with a little stamp on their forehead or a little lapel pin saying, hi, I'm a bodhisattva. So if you get mad at anybody, you could be getting mad at a bodhisattva, and thus ruin your root of virtue. So I made sure after class that I stopped her and I said, can I help? Do you understand? Do I need to describe more what's going on? And I did. She was still freaked out. So how might she experience what I taught her? I had to be, instead of just going, well, she'll get over it. I took it upon myself to be sure I understood. She understood. Now, the other thing is, if you know me at all, I happen to like puns. I like to make puns. Now, not everybody understands puns. They are self-existently the best form of humor. It's one of the few The only other thing that's self-existent in this world is how to cut waffles and pancakes. There's a method, and I'll share this with you because it's very important. If you have pancakes, you stack 3 of them, put butter between each one. You stack them 3 high, then you cut them 4 ways this way and 4 ways this way. That optimizes, increases the surface area tremendously. Now you pour on the syrup, and that will cover every corner of your waffle or your French toast or your pancake. That's the only way to do it. Now, of course, it's not self-existent because nothing's self-existent, but it's as close as you can get to being self-existent. The other self-existent almost thing is my sense of humor. I think I'm quite funny. A lot of people don't. A lot of people think it's a curse. I think it's a gift. So, again, my responsibility, trying to make sure I'm helping others, serving others, being sensitive, exchanging myself with them, is if I start doing puns, I need to watch the students in the audience, which is where I usually am doing this. And if they're rolling their eyes or looking at their phone, which they shouldn't be, then I know that I'm losing them. They're not comfortable with my sense of humor. So I have to be sensitive to what they need to make them comfortable, to make them happy. And I've got to stop my jokes. So when I was in South Africa for was this the first time? No, it was the second time. I decided one day, one class, I wouldn't tell any jokes. And at the end of class, Philip, one of the students who I got to know pretty well, came up to me and said, "David, please don't do that again. Your jokes make the room, make the teaching personal and enjoyable." I'm not sure what that meant about the lecture without my jokes, but it was nice to know he appreciated my sense of humor. So be observant at this low level, the basic level. You're looking to see how people are reacting to you. You're trying to help them and fine-tuning what you're doing so that you do help them. Okay. Deepest level. Try to remove the distinction between me and you. Start with one person, then 2, and then grow it out to the world. We're already doing this easily, but in the negative. We see someone's mad, we extend ourselves to that person, or upset with us, we extend ourselves to that person and find out what it is that made them mad. But you want to do this also with what would make them happy, not get them mad first. So my example for this is the Diamond Mountain Temple and the shoes. Now, I don't think any of you, Ella might remember this. I don't think so, though. I was pretty much gone by then. When I was the operations manager, I was the temple shoe monitor. When you come into the temple at Diamond Mountain, there's a series of shelves on the right where you're supposed to put your shoes because you're not wearing your shoes in the temple. Pretty obvious. Well, if you have 150 people getting in the temple and they all don't put their shoes on the shelves, it gets to be a mess and it's dangerous. We had someone break an ankle stepping on a shoe. So I would stand there talking with people, trying to get them to put their shoes on the shelf. And at the end, just before class, I'd go out and I'd put all the shoes on the shelf that weren't on the shelf for safety reasons and to make a point. Now, I will be honest, that early in my days of doing this, I actually semi-seriously considered taking the shoes of the people that didn't put it on the shelves consistently, didn't do it. I thought of taking their shoes and throwing them out as far as I could into the desert, figuring that would remind them about why they needed to put their shoes on the shelf. Now, to the point of the deepest level, is that extending myself to them? No, it's extending myself to them, my action. I'm not thinking of them. Why didn't they put their shoes on the shelf? Maybe they're really in a hurry. Okay, is that a good excuse? Well, not to me. Come earlier if you're in a hurry. Put your shoes on the shelf. So I need to think of how I can get them to do that without offending them or making them angry, making it their idea. And I never really did solve that. I ended up just putting their shoes on the shelf. Now, I will admit sometimes I put Doug's shoes on the back shelf, so he had to look a little bit harder for them. But they were on the shelf. They weren't out in the desert. So my first thought was an old way of thinking about helping people, of throwing the shoes out in the desert. The right thought, the correct thought. I had that thought, so that was movement of the mind. That was karma I made, even though it was just a movement of the mind, not a thought or action. But it was incorrect. It wasn't putting them first. It wasn't exchanging me for them for me. The proper thing to do was to try and figure out how I could make them understand, help them understand they needed to put their shoes on the shelf. Now, this seems seemingly fairly mundane, and it is, but it's the small things. My wife and I call it the low-level radiation. It's a very low-level radiation harms you in the long run, but not in the short run. So doing things, being inconsiderate of people, not following rules, small rules like putting your shoes on the shelf. That's pretty low-level stuff. But low-level increases to where it becomes greater and greater, and then finally ripens to something you don't necessarily want to deal with. So don't think just because it's a small problem that it's not important. I guess what I'm trying to say, there's no such thing as a trivial karma. When you stop and think about it, since karma doubles in strength every 24 hours or so, small karma becomes a very big karma pretty quickly. We need to see that we're all in the same plight, and we can extend our concern for ourselves to others because they're suffering just as I am. We serve the physical, which is easiest, the mental, which is harder, and then we eliminate the physical and mental boundaries and extend ourselves so that there are 2 heads, 4 arms, 2 mouths to feed, and then extend it from there. We have convinced ourselves that death is certain, the time of death is uncertain, and none of our conventional concerns can help us. Now we can extend that to everyone. Who cares if someone yelled at me? Doesn't matter. I'm going to die maybe in 5 minutes. So why waste my time getting angry? Why get the bad karma for getting angry? Or, in my case, why annoy someone else with my jokes if it makes them angry? You can make this exchange a habit, and if you do, your life will change, but you need to practice at a pace that will be comfortable and work for you. So getting started. Understand the difference between love and compassion. Why is that important? If you're trying to help somebody, you need to know whether what you're doing is going to make them happy or going to take away their suffering, which are not the same thing. I always use the example of my wife with one of her migraine headaches. I've had one headache that I think is somewhat similar to a migraine. And if it's what my wife has had for many years, I stand in awe of her being able to handle it as well as she has. My only experience was I went out and played around the golf with some friends. It was hot. We had a beer. I came home. I had a slight headache. And usually that's back in the day when I jogged. I went out and was going to run the cross country course outside our house for my afternoon run. I started running and my head felt like it was going to explode. My neighbor saw me walk back into my house and I was doing this. I actually thought my head was going to explode. So I laid down, went to sleep, woke up, and my headache was gone. So I described that to my wife and she said, yep, that's what a migraine feels like. So when she has a migraine, I know the signs now. I know what would make her happy would be to have some ice cream. That always makes either one of us happy. But what she needs is to have her suffering taken care of. And that means getting her what we lovingly call hot beans. She has a bean bag, and I put that in the microwave and heat it up and give it to her. She puts it on her forehead or the side of her head, and that helps take away the pain of the migraine. So I'm showing compassion. I'm trying to take away her suffering before I try to make her happy by giving her ice cream. That doesn't mean I can't have ice cream. No, it does. I can't eat ice cream in front of her. Okay, now here's the other one. And this one I want you to think really hard about. Listen the way you want to be heard. Think about it. When someone's talking to you, often you have something you want to say, and you just, come on, finish what you're saying, let me talk. But if you want them to listen carefully to what you're saying, you have to set the karma in place by listening the way you want to be heard. So focus your attention on that person, listen carefully to what they're saying, let them finish. Now, sometimes you get in a situation where the person just keeps on talking. Then you need skillful means on how to interrupt and get an answer in or do what you have to do. But listen the way you want to be heard. So I say here, it sounds easy, but in my experience, it takes considerable effort. Usually, if someone asks your advice, you have advice to give them. So you're anxious to give them their advice. But if they're still asking the question, you can't very well say, yeah, whatever, here's my advice. That's not going to work. You've got to listen the way you want to be heard. So that's my pithy advice. I came up with that. And here's another thing that makes people happy and extends yourself to them. I don't know about you, but I like to get praise. I feel especially happy, satisfied with life. Occasionally, my wife will tell me she's proud of me. That's about the nicest thing someone can say to me. She doesn't say it very often, which makes me wonder a little bit. But when she does, it makes me feel good. So if that makes me feel good, maybe it makes others feel good. So I try and praise others. I try and tell people I'm proud of them. They ask a particularly good question. They discuss a particularly interesting point in Buddhist philosophy, or they do something to help me around the house without my asking. I'm proud of you. That, boy, to have someone say that, whether it be my lovely wife or somebody else, is just about the best thing that can be done for me. So listen the way you want to be heard. Extend yourself to the other person so that you're on their side of the conversation, listening to speaking, watching me to see if I'm listening carefully. Praising others, tell people you're proud of them. If that makes you happy, that gives you a sense of belonging or importance or value, I should say. And that's going to be true for others. So exchange yourself and others by praising them. Okay, what else do I want to say about the distinction between self and other is a karmic projection based on past deeds. And I need to be clear, we're not saying we become one mind stream. When you exchange self and others, you're not becoming one mind stream. Instead, what we're saying is that other beings are an extension of myself, and it's up to me to get the karma to not see suffering by stopping their suffering. At some point, we'll all be in the same, it will all be the same in that we're not suffering, but we will still be separate mind streams. Our death meditation just got a little bit harder because now we see that we just can't come home and sit and fix it for ourselves. We need to go to work and serve others as if they were me. Just as we talked about renunciation and divesting ourselves of stuff, we're talking here about divesting the attitude of me and mine versus others. Giving up the very secure boundary of me and mine and extend me and mine to all others. Now, for me, that doesn't mean, I will admit this, for me, it doesn't mean giving a stranger my keys and saying, take my car and drive it anywhere, because I'd regret that. So before I do something like that, I've got to make sure I won't regret it. Now, if I do regret it, I need to grow up and figure out a way to not regret it. But don't do something to help somebody else if you're going to regret it. Investigate why you're regretting it and do something about it. We had a student at Diamond Mountain who appeared to be a very sincere gentleman. He's a big guy. He's a good plumber. He could help me with the plumbing at Diamond Mountain. So he needed money for a new computer. So I loaned him the money, $1,000. He got a new computer. He was very happy with it. He was a con man. He never paid me back. He stole a vehicle and left us. He didn't take any of our money, but he did take some of our tools. So, was I wrong to give him the money? Did I regret it? No. I was trying to help him with the problem he had at the moment that could be solved by getting a new computer. Now, I could have thought, oh, I wonder if Scott really needs a new computer. He's probably just trying to con me out of $1,000. Or I could think, this person needs a new computer. I have the wherewithal to do it. I can loan him the money. And if he pays me back, fine. If he doesn't, that's not so good, but that's okay if he doesn't. My wife agreed that we did the right thing in loaning him the money, thank goodness. Otherwise, I would have been in a world of hurt. So extend yourself to others, but do it in baby steps to begin with. Think it out completely. Do it without regret. Listen the way you want to be heard. Praise other people. I think you'll find if you follow those instructions, even just try to follow those instructions, you'll find that things get better and better in your practice. And that sets you up for your death meditation when you're dying, knowing you've done your best to help others. Because what we're trying to do is accumulate the kind of merit we need so that we aren't thinking the wrong things and we have, when we're dying, and we have the right merit accumulated. The most powerful merit we want to get is that of helping others reach their happiness. that's the kind of thing that's going to power our new rebirth into an favorable rebirth, because we won't be worried about other things. What we'll be worried about is, did I help people enough? Not, oh, I wish I'd helped more people. Okay. So what's the time here? Okay, let's take a break till 1. Well, 1 my time, whatever, till the top of the hour. Then we'll do our meditation. So we'll see you in about 15 minutes. If you have any questions, I'll stick around.
Lama, how do you help people who are not Buddhist?
How did I help people?
When they are dying?
How do I help them?
Hmm.
Well, that's a good question. I haven't known many people. I haven't been near the deathbed of many people. In fact, most of the people that I know that passed did so without me being there for weeks. There was one lady, Grace, that was a very close friend of my lovely wife's. And I remember she was pretty much gone when I went in. And what I told her was I really enjoyed knowing her. She was very helpful in my life. She was a wonderful friend to my wife. And we would miss her, but we hope she went to a better world. She was Buddhist. Well, she was Theosophist, not a Buddhist. That's the best I could do at the time. I didn't know any of this back then when this was happening. I just thought if I was exchanging in my own ignorant way, I was exchanging myself with her, thinking, what do I want to hear if I was her and she was me talking to me? I think the comfort would be to know that I enjoyed knowing her. She was had an important effect on my life, and was such a wonderful and dear friend for my wife. And share, yes, I think I did. There we go. You're welcome. Hi, Svetlana. Thank you for all the hard work you've put in. I appreciate it. Has anybody signed up for next weekend? Do you know?
We have the one registration link, so it's not visible who signed up for this weekend or for the next weekend. So I can't tell for now how many people are going to be the next weekend.
Okay, I was just curious.
Yeah, thank you so much for teaching us. It's very, very valuable.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you for working so hard. Did you enjoy setting this up?
Yes, it's a really great opportunity for me, and I feel like how my attitude already is changing, because it was like one of the most scariest thing for me, and help other people to understand the meaning of it is a really profound opportunity to change things.
Good. So you're going to keep producing programs?
Yes, like for the next weekend, yes, and like.
Good. I'm glad it's turned into a good experience for you. Elena, I try and slow down. I really do try. Thank you for putting up with my. Oh, would you like me to send you a copy of the complete meditation before tomorrow so that you can take a read through it? I can't hear you. I have English selected. Okay, how do I get you a copy? I don't know that I have your email. Should I send it to Svetlana and she can forward it to you?
Yeah, that would be great. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I figured that might make it easier.
Yeah, much easier. I already prepared for today's lesson, so it's easier today than yesterday. So
Okay. In the future, I'll remember that if I have a translator to send them the material before the class.
yeah, that's really helpful.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I better make a note and do that. So how many languages do you speak?
I like languages, but English is, since I'm Ukrainian, I speak Russian, so English, 3 languages only.
Now, this is going to be a stupid question, so please don't take offense. But is there a native Ukrainian language or is it Russian?
Mostly I speak Russian language, but I know Ukrainian very good. I read Ukrainian, I translate Ukrainian also. So
Okay, so there is a native Ukrainian language.
yeah, sure.
How different is it from Russian?
It differs a bit. It's easier, much easier for Ukrainian to understand Russian, but harder for Russian to understand Ukrainian, because Ukrainian is more similar to Polish, to Lithuanian, to Western languages.
Oh, interesting. Oh,
Yeah.
fascinating. Yeah, I don't have any language. I took just enough French to be able to play basketball in high school. I didn't enjoy, and grammar is not my strong point. Even though I write technical history, I don't know a thing about grammar. So, but
I think you have another skills, very useful skills for us to share. So it's totally okay. You cannot be perfect in everything.
well, I'm a shining example of not being perfect in everything.
So do I. Thank you for sharing your experience.
Oh, you're welcome. That's what makes my teaching a bit different than others. Okay, I'm going to sign off now. I think. Yeah, there we go. Interpretation. Okay. Okay, here we go. I'll wait for some people to stop eating.
I looked at what I was eating yesterday. It's called spelt.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Puff, spelt. Is that the right word? The pronunciation? Puffed
Spelt?
or puffed. I don't know how to say it.
Puffed. P-U-F-F.
Puffed.
Poofed. Yeah, I don't think I've ever heard. No one talks about poofed rice. They talk about puffed rice.
Yeah.
Actually, in Australia, poof has a different connotation for something else. So I won't go into detail. Okay, so settle in, get comfortable. We'll do the preliminaries, which I should have done at the beginning of class, but did not. I'm very tired, so I apologize. I needed to get more sleep than I have. Okay, so let's do 10 breaths, 22 sets of 10 breaths, then we'll start the preliminaries. Okay, make sure your shoulders are relaxed, your face is relaxed, maybe with a slight smile. Head level, eyes lowered or closed. Spine is straight. Please go for refuge in the fact that the teachings this weekend are preparing you to understand death awareness and to use death awareness in your daily practice. Next, think of someone you know who's having trouble, mental, physical, or emotional pain. Think how much you'd like to be able to help them and grow that feeling in your heart. If you have bodhisattva vows, you know how to help them. So go ahead and apply your skill. Invite your holy being to come and meditate with you. They sit in the air in front of you, a full length prostration away, life-size, smiling and happy that you're doing this practice. Now do 3 mental prostrations, thanking them for their good qualities, remembering that A prostration is thanking, is honoring the individual. It's not submission. Now make them an offering. If something you did in your practice that you did well today. Next, confession. Regret a wrong deed that you have done in the past 24 hours. If you haven't done anything bad in the last 24 hours, good for you, then make it go back 48 or 72. Next, rejoice, tell them a specific goodness that you did and be happy about it. Be proud of it. Ask for the teachings, both formal and informal. You're looking for teachings that are informal. 24/7, you're going to be involved with people. Look and see how they're helping you with your practice. Okay, you're back in the corridor in front of a white door. You open the door and step into a turret-shaped room, like in a castle. Sunlight shines through a small diamond-shaped window high up on the wall, and a beam of sunlight shines down into the center of the room. To your left, leaning against the wall, is a staff slightly taller than you, made of wood with a silver handle. You reach out with your left hand. It's important that it be your left hand. Take the staff, and it fits perfectly. That was made just for you. As you pick it up, you say to yourself, if it is sure that I'm going to die, I decide now to start my spiritual practice. Take one step forward with your left foot towards the sunlight, but not in it. As you do, you pound the staff on the ground and hear the sharp noise that it makes. This represents your decision that I don't know when I'm going to die. I must start my spiritual practice now, and I will quit my worldly way of thinking. Step forward one more step with your left foot. Now you're in the sunlight. Raise the staff high over your head. And this represents your decision. If nothing but my spiritual life can help me, then I devote myself to my spiritual practice. There is no point in doing anything less, and I strive for the highest practice. These are your 3 resolutions. You look to your right and you see a door of royal blue color shimmering. On the door are the words Dakshin Namje, exchanging self for others. You open the door to the left and you find yourself in a small restaurant. You walk up to the maitre d' who recognizes you, immediately takes you to one of several small rooms adjoining the main room. The rooms are linked together with openings, but no doors. There is a person reading a book in a reading chair against the far wall. And when you enter the room, they get up and you both simultaneously go to a dining table that is in the middle of the room. The beautiful teak table has a blue tablecloth and is set for two. Next to it is a large ornate serving cart with chafing dishes keeping warm several main meals. It's a tradition in this restaurant that there's no menu. Instead, they have several main meals you can select from. Next to that cart is a cart with several cool drinks. And next to the drink cart is the dessert cart. After you both take your napkins and lay them on your laps, as the other person turns to look at the serving tray of the main course, you focus your attention on them to ascertain which of the main courses they are looking at with the greatest attention. You then take that plate of quinoa and lentils mixed with roasted green chilies and sliced olives, seasoned with caramelized onions and curry powder that they're looking at, and place it in front of them. This is the physical level of serving others. You look again at their eyes and see what drink they're lingering on, and you hand them the glass of water on the cart with a lemon, no ice, that they turn their eyes to. This represents serving their emotional needs. To complete their meal, they look at the dessert selection, and again you watch and select the piece of chocolate swirl cheesecake they focus their attention on. This represents fulfilling their spiritual needs. So this is the basic level of exchanging self and others. You excuse yourself and get up and go to the next room where there is another table set for two. This time it's an oak table with a yellow tablecloth. As you enter the room, the same person is again sitting in a reading chair and gets up and joins you at the table. There's another set of serving carts there with the same choices for the meal. This time you ask the person to sit in your spot and you sit in theirs. As they think about dinner, beverage, and dessert, you are them, and you get it for them because you're thinking and know in advance what they would want. You made them quite happy because of your attention to the detail in the first room. You're trying to think like they do, acting out of awareness for others' needs. The distinction of you and them is still there, but it's fading as you try hard to anticipate their needs. What is fading is your habit of thinking of yourself first. It is not, and I repeat, it is not as if you're physically becoming them and losing your own identity. This represents the medium level of bodhicitta. You get up again and move to one more oval room. At the center is a small cafe table with a checkered tablecloth and two chairs. As you walk into the room, the same person gets up from yet another reading chair and joins you at the table. The spice cake with cream cheese icing is in the middle of the table. There's a ball of string next to the cake, and you pick it up and unroll it. laying it on the floor counterclockwise, encompassing the table and chairs, and you tie the ends together. Then you very deliberately step inside the circle. This represents breaking down the distinction between yourself and the other person. This is the deepest level of bodhicitta, of exchanging self and others. You both pick up your forks and mirroring each other's movements, magically take the same piece of cake. That both of you eat the same piece of cake at the same time represents that it is incomplete to make efforts for our own happiness when billions of people are equally wanting to be free from suffering. The practice of exchanging self for others is a difficult concept to truly grasp. But what is critically important is that you are not losing your identity, but rather expanding your sense of identity to include others. Now you get up and you walk toward the silver door, but you don't open it. Okay, you can open your eyes. So recall your holy being. Ask them to come and stay in your heart to guide you. They're happy to do so. They shrink down to 3 inches in size, raise up, turn to the face of where you are, come to the top of your head, and shrink down again to the size of a PB, and descend in your central channel to the level of your heart. They stay in your heart with you the rest of the day, there to help and guide you as you need it. Let's dedicate today's class. By the goodness of what I've just done, may all beings complete the collection of merit and wisdom, and thus gain the 2 ultimate bodies that merit and wisdom make. Okay. So tomorrow at 8 a.m. my time, we're going to go through the entire meditation. I'll try and do it a little more slowly. I will send you a written copy of it. I may send that tonight, but I'll probably send it tomorrow. If you have any questions, stick around and I'll answer them. If not, we'll see you tomorrow. Thank you for the chance to teach you this wonderful material. I think it made a profound difference in my life, and I hope it can have the same effect for you.
Thank you, dear Lama. See you later.
I thought the schedule said it was 10 a.m. tomorrow. It's
Well,
8 a.m.
It's 8 a.m. my time.
You're in Arizona,
Yes, where are you?
California at the same time.
No, but it should be 10 a.m. Arizona.
Really?
That's what it said in the
Well,
telegram.
no, that's fine. If that's what it said, it's
up
I
to
have
you.
8 o'clock in what I sent Svetlana. If everybody has it at 10 o'clock,
8 would be better for me. I just wanted to make sure I didn't show up at the wrong time.
well, my schedule, so Louisa, your schedule says, Svetlana, does the schedule say 10 or 8? 10.
10 a.m. Arizona time. I'm trying to find.
Well,
Yes,
In the
so
chat, 10 a.m.
Sunday, AM to Son time, Germany time 7 p.m. and Moscow time 8 p.m.
Well,
Oh.
I guess it's 10 o'clock then. I'm
10
glad we
for
talked.
Arizona.
I would have showed up at 8 and been disappointed that nobody showed up.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry. Well, it won't work so well for you.
That's okay.
Okay, well,
So we stay 10 a.m.
we stay at 10 a.m.
Okay, then
That's-
you can sleep more, Lama.
Yes, thank goodness. Maybe I'll make a pancake breakfast for my wife.
Hmm.
We don't have any syrup. Never mind. Bad idea.
Okay, see you later. Thanks for the
Okay.
teachings.
Bye-bye.
Bye.